What's up, YouTube? It's me, the Artisan MC, and today I'm going to react to Blue Eye Samurai Episode 7 Nothing Broken. Well, I just finished watching this episode, and I would say that it had a couple of the more shocking reveals or surprises to speak in this episode. Um, it did have some funny moments, it did have a lot of sex stuff in this episode, but it's the next to last episode, so I figure they're just getting it in there. Now, this episode opens up right after number 6, in where Mizu and Taigen are pulled from the lake after they escaped Baja Fowler's castle. And we find out who saved them, and the person who saved them is Ringo, right? And Ringo has taken them to a house to actually revive them, so to speak. And the house he takes them to is the sword master, Master Ag. Now, this was a surprise because I thought Master Ag was dead. I really did. I thought that when Mizu left there, or the reason she left there from being with him is that he was dead. I didn't think that he was still alive and kicking, but no, he's still there making swords, blind as ever. So that was a bit of a surprise. It was a bit more beneficial having him there in this episode because it gave an opportunity to find out more about the nature of his relationship with Mizu and why she left, and to see Mizu dealing with her failure to kill Abijah Fowler. That was what was more interesting about this to me because I wanted to see how she dealt with that. I really did want to see how this character dealt with that. That her whole mission has been pushing her through all of this stuff to get to killing Abijah Fowler. She gets there face to face with him and she can't do it. Not that she didn't want to, it's the situation presented was not an opportunity. She had to make a choice. Her life, Tigan's life, or Abijah Fowler's. She chose to save Tigan, which was a big move. She gave up what she had wanted this whole time, her stated goal this whole time, to save somebody she, kind of knew. So I wanted to see how she dealt with that because I would think in that kind of situation, you don't know who you are after that. And what you see in this episode is a little bit of that with Mizu. She's kind of, you know, broken in a sense, just like her sword. And I think it comes from being too consumed with the rage and the revenge. Because once again in this episode, you get someone calling her a demon. And it's someone that she actually cares a bit about in the form of Tigan that still hits home with her, makes her really think about that of her being a demon, what it means for her to be a demon. Because the samurai calling her a demon is not so much about her eyes. It is about who she is as a person on a personal level, how she is not feeling. She does not care. She has an inability to care and connect with these people. No sense of honor. And to a samurai, honor is everything. So if you don't have any honor, who are you really? Now, while I was watching this, I had the Ahsoka effect going on in this, to where there was a line delivered to her that, "What kind of samurai are you?" And I answered the question in the watch, like, she is no samurai. Like Ahsoka saying, "I am no Jedi." No, you're not. You gotta have a sword, but you're not this because you don't follow those traditions. You don't follow that code. And I think that hits Mizu a bit hard because After seeing the events of episode 5 and episode 6, you know Mizu actually does care, but she pushes it aside and makes some deplorable actions in service of getting to this white man and trying to kill this white man, which puts her at odds with people. And sure enough, while she's here and recuperating, and Tigan is here recuperating, and they have a little bit of a conversation about what's going on and what she actually knows, Tigan gets pissed and leaves. But before he leaves, he tells her, "Look, I'm going to go warn the Shogun, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to kill you," because he's disappointed. He understands that her being a demon is a waste of her skill, of her life, in a sense. And that hits Mizu a bit hard, coupled with the failure of killing Abijah Fowler. Knowing her history, what else is weighing on her, it hits her a bit hard. And being back in this village with the sword master, it's just all of this is really taking its emotional and mental effect on her. Now, one of the things you get from this is a good scene with her and the sword master talking. And whereas the sword master always knew she had this hatred in her, and he didn't fault her for it at all. But what he tells her is that she is an artist. He trained her to be an artist, not necessarily a samurai or somebody out there from revenge killing. But art takes many forms. And when I'm listening to him giving her this speech, I'm thinking there is an art to, dare I say, cutting somebody down with a sword. There is an art to it. There is an art to being able to fight with a sword. Now, with a sword master also tells he doesn't know anything about the rest of all of that crap. He doesn't. But he knows how to make swords, and that's what he does. And his heart is pure when he does it. So one of the things you see in this is Mizu trying to repair her sword, because sword master, Master Eiji, won't do it. He won't do it for her. Just no. I don't have the steel. So she has to figure out a way to reforge that sword herself. And her first attempt fails, and she's mad. She's crushed. But it's symbolic. The failure in and of itself is symbolic because her spirit is not right. And like the sword master tells her about the broken pieces of her sword, they were not made with this steel, and they were too pure. That's why it broke. You need to temper it with this. She doesn't agree at first, but later she understands that she has to be clear within her own mind and body and spirit to even be able to repair this sword. And that means she has to get clear on who she is and what she's doing and why she's doing it. And I thought that was kind of excellent for this character, because you see her shedding a lot of that blue eye samurai and getting back to just being the woman Mizu, trying to craft a sword. Now, at the same time, as Mizu was having this crisis of identity, this identity crisis, you have Akemi back in Edo preparing for her wedding. And she does not want to be there. She doesn't want to marry this man. She doesn't want to be there. She wants to go out and be free. She feels like a bird in a cage. And what it sounded like is that Akemi just doesn't want to do her duty. That's basically what it is. Is that this is the role that has been kind of set for her in life, for the family, for everything else. And she doesn't care about any of that. She doesn't want to do her actual duty. And we get Seki coming in and trying to talk to her and tell her that, like the sword master talking to Mizu, he lets her know he wasn't the best at any of this other stuff. She thought that. He wasn't. Only thing that he was the best at was knowing her, who she was, because he was there to help raise her. And one of the things he did, and the advice he gives her, is that through Go and certain things that he did to let her slide on certain things, he put her in the position to learn, to become smart, to learn how to play a situation, whatever situation, because he knew eventually she would have to marry somebody. He saw it as an eventuality. So he worked to prepare her mind as opposed to just writing her off. Now, this is important for Akimi because it gives her one of two people who actually check her on who she is and why she is. Now, even though her complaints about doing her duty and being married sound like some entitled kid shit, because in some ways it is. She eventually ends up running into Madame Kaji and her band of happy hookers. And Madame Kaji also gives Akimi a talking to, especially after they discover that she really is a princess. They've had to sleep with all these guys on the road all the way to come to Ito for this wedding and make some coin. And it turns out she is the princess and she's the one getting married. And how she wants to run away from it all and all the rest of that. And they're looking at her like she's stupid. Like, I'd kill to be in your position. So they are there to give her a very real world wake up call. And Madame Kaji actually tells Akimi that it's not about what these other people want. She's just marrying a man. Men are weak. If you don't like your life, figure out a way to change it because you're in charge. That second conversation after Seke actually puts a fire on her butt for her to actually start thinking through the situation and figuring out how she can turn this situation to her advantage, to turn her prison into her paradise by actually taking charge. And she finds a pretty obvious way to do that. I'm not going to spoil it. But in this way, this whole part of the story that takes place at court in Edo at the wedding shows you a couple of things. The man she is set to marry, Shogun Ito's son, may not be a bad guy at all. Um, Shogun Ito Might not be a bad guy at all. Shogun Ito's wife, yeah, she a whole bitch. She does some very, very publicly grimy stuff to Akimi sitting there at the, I guess, the marriage dinner, the pre-marriage dinner. I'm like, wow. The stuff she brought out was basically to just make Akimi sick. You have to watch to see what it is and listen to what they're naming off as the foods they're feeding this chick. It's like, that's wrong. That is some wrong, wrong stuff. That you get the understanding that the problem is not Akimi marrying the shogun's son. The problem for Akimi is going to be her new mother in law. That's the problem. Because you learn Shogun's son, yeah, he's a good samurai, but he's whipped. He is a whipped dog, a show pony. And the real problem is his mother. So I'm waiting to see how that fills out in the rest of this last episode. Now, the third part to this, what plot that's going on, is that Abijah Fowler and Haji Shindo are making their way to Edo for the wedding, but more so than the wedding, they're making their way to Edo because that is where they're going to perform their coup. And Abijah has his guns coming in, and Haji Shindo is feeding that information to the other chiefs and bosses from Shogun Ito's group to let them know where these guns are so they can take the guns themselves and turn on Fowler or kill him off because they don't want to share this power with a white man. They don't want to do that, which I'm not an objection of. They shouldn't have been in bed with him anyway, but it is what it is. And what you see on this whole journey of Abijah Fowler and Haji Shindo traveling to Edo is that they have, at least Abijah Fowler, has some definite twisted perversions in taste. It's some different shit. Now, all of this stuff just serves to make this character more reprehensible and also goes into a theory I have about certain things, which are kind of played out in this show, being that Abijah Fowler is a complete fucking psycho. So, I mean, non clinically speaking, he's a psychopath. Maybe not a mad dog, but he doesn't have a problem killing anybody for fun or otherwise. And he is really just nonchalant about it. I mean, the closest thing I've seen to him in real life is the Iceman, Richard Kuklinski. That had no feeling, no emotion whatsoever about talking about what he did to people that ended their lives. That's how this Abijah Fowler character is. It's just something that happens. He does not care in the least bit. Now, through one of these excursions to a brothel, one of Madame Kaji's group overhears this conversation about what is going to happen to the shogunate, what they plan to do in Edo. Now, once this member of Madame Kaji's group makes it to Edo and she finds out who Akimi is, and Akimi turns around and offers these women jobs as her attendants. Issei actually tells Akimi what is bubbling for them here in Edo, what is coming. And lets her know it's not good. Now, I don't want to spoil the rest of this, but there are moves made after Akimi hears about this plot to take out the shogunate. There are moves made. Now, I can say here that the only thing that happened from these three stories is that I'm already wishing this series was longer. Already. Because I'm thinking there's not enough time to wrap all of this up in this one episode. It's not enough time, which means I want a season 2. Now, I'm pretty sure Netflix will do a season 2 of this, but it's Netflix. They could do a season 2. They could put out, this season and cancel it all together and keep it moving. You don't know. You would like to, but you don't. But for what I have seen in 7 episodes, I have been entertained, and I'm interested to see this show go forward. And that is a far cry from what I saw in 7 episodes of Ahsoka, which I don't want to see go forward. And I am not looking forward to watching ever again. But they're coming out with a second season. So make that make sense to you. So for me, I'm enjoying the show. This episode was revealing in a lot of ways. I'm really raring to get into this last episode because I have too many questions on what happens to some of these characters. I care what happens to these characters, and I want to know what goes on next. So I'm going to go ahead and end this review right now, or this reaction right now. Overall, good episode. Good episode. A lot of exposition that keyed you in on what was happening, but I think it was useful to set the stage and set the table for the meal that is to come, which is episode 8. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Like, share, subscribe, click the bell when you do that, and support the stream if you feel so inclined. I'm artisanmc, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.